Welcome to Lesson 5, where we will focus on Overall Expectation B2 and its related knowledge and skills. On July 28th, Policy Procedure Memorandum 168 was issued. Among details related to the implementation of a universal screening tool for students in Year 2 of the kindergarten program to students in Grade 2, Section 4 of this PPM provides the requirement for protected time on foundations of language instruction, specifically as described in Appendix A, as it pertains to Overall Expectation B2. This protected time calls for 30 minutes within the overall daily literacy block to be devoted to the skills in this specific overall expectation. So what are the specific knowledge and skills of the B2 strand? In the language foundations for reading and writing, we have skills related to phonemic awareness, alphabetic knowledge, phonics, grapheme-phoneme correspondence, word-level reading and spelling using phonics knowledge, using orthographic knowledge, and using morphological knowledge, vocabulary, as well as reading fluency, accuracy, rate, and prosody. In addition to the specific expectations in the new language curriculum, you will find two very valuable appendix documents. The first of these documents is the Language Foundations Continuum for Reading and Writing, Grades 1 to 4, Overall Expectation B2. This Appendix A provides an at-a-glance chart of the mandatory learning in the more detailed sections that appear under Overall Expectation B2 in Grades 1 to 4. When we open the appendix, we find a chart with all the mandatory learning for each of the areas of knowledge and skills described previously. This is a sample of the word-level reading and spelling. For the chart's purpose, applying phonics, orthographic, and morphological knowledge have been combined. We will now go through each of the skills individually to review what they are and why they are important for reading and writing. Phonemic awareness skills appear only in the Grade 1 expectations of the Ontario Language Curriculum 2023. It is important to note that there are phonemic awareness skills that must be addressed prior to beginning instruction of the skills in the Grade 1 expectations. These skills can and should be developed in Years 1 and 2 of the kindergarten program. So what is phonemic awareness? Phonemic awareness is a subcomponent under the phonological awareness umbrella. Phonological awareness is the awareness and the ability to reflect on the sound structure of spoken language, including an awareness of separate words and sentences, the ability to identify and produce words that share the same rhyme, hear individual syllables within a word, and break a syllable into its onset and rhyme. It also refers to the ability to identify and manipulate the smallest unit of sound in spoken words, called a phoneme. This deepest level of phonological awareness is referred to as phonemic awareness. When students begin to identify, notice, segment, blend, and manipulate these individual sounds or phonemes in words, they are developing and consolidating their phonemic awareness. Phonological awareness is critical for learning to read any alphabetic writing system, and research shows that difficulty with phoneme awareness and other phonological skills is a predictor of poor reading and spelling development. The foundations of alphabetic knowledge also begin prior to Grade 1. In Grade 1, students are consolidating this knowledge by both naming and forming letters with increasing automaticity. There is much research to support the need of explicit instruction in early transcription skills, that is to say, letter formation, in order to support later writing proficiency. Students who lack this automaticity struggle to get their ideas out on paper, and writing progress is held back. According to the curriculum definition of phonics, phonics refers to the systematic and structured teaching of grapheme to phoneme correspondences and how to use these to decode, read, and spell words. And for that reason, this slide incorporates both grapheme-phoneme correspondence and word-level reading and spelling using phonics knowledge skills together. Grapheme-phoneme correspondence refers to the association between a grapheme, a letter or cluster of letters, and its corresponding phoneme, and vice versa. It may also be called letter-sound correspondence. Understanding this relationship enables students to read by relating graphemes to phonemes and blending phonemes together to sound out words, and to spell by breaking words into phonemes and representing each phoneme with a corresponding grapheme with automaticity. Learning these skills occurs largely in the context of learning about decoding and spelling of written words. In the appendix, you will see a detailed list of all of the grapheme-phoneme correspondences that should be taught in the Grade 1 curriculum, as well as the specific phonemes that should be consolidated prior to beginning the Grade 1 scope and sequence. The word orthographic has two meaningful parts: ortho, meaning true or correct, and graphic, meaning pertaining to drawing or writing. So orthographic knowledge refers to the knowledge of how letters represent sounds in spoken language. Some key concepts in this expectation are developing an understanding that there are multiple ways to spell some phonemes, as well as the application of position-based tendencies. An example of a position-based tendency would be knowing that the k sound at the end of a word after a short vowel is most commonly spelled with a CK. So up until this point, we have talked about phonemes, the smallest unit of sound, and graphemes, the letter or letters that represent a phoneme in writing. Morphemes are the smallest units of language that carry meaning. In this very basic example, the word cats has two separate morphemes, cat and s, meaning more than one. Students need explicit learning opportunities to develop the ability to segment words into recognizable morphemes and to apply their morphological knowledge to spell and read longer and more complex words. In the English language, morphemes consist of prefixes, suffixes, and bases. These meaningful word parts are historically derived from Anglo-Saxon, Latin, and Greek origins. Up until this point, we have mostly been talking about skills from the lower portion of Scarborough's rope, the word recognition strand. We should recall that vocabulary knowledge is a skill that comes from the language comprehension strand of Scarborough's rope. If you recall from the four-part processing model for decoding, once the graphemes have been converted to phonemes, or the morphemes have been recognized by the orthographic processor, the parts are blended together and an auditory representation of the word is created in the mind. It is at this point that the meaning processor kicks in to allow comprehension to occur. For this to happen, the brain needs to have some memory of the word and its previous uses. This is where vocabulary knowledge comes in. The process of developing vocabulary involves acquiring new words and understanding their meanings when reading and listening and writing and speaking. In learning new words, students learn the meaning, usage, form, and relationship to other words, and build the breadth and depth of their vocabulary. Vocabulary is developed through both explicit instruction of words and implicit learning from working with oral language and written texts in various contexts. When all of the previous skills come together, that is to say, students learn to lift words off the page automatically and effortlessly, and they understand most of the words that they are reading, then they are on their way to becoming fluent readers. Fluency is a term that encompasses three things: accuracy, meaning the words are read correctly; rate, meaning that they are read with automaticity at a sufficient rate; and prosody, that the words are read with the expression, intonation, and cadence to reflect the meaning of the text. It is important for us as educators to understand that accuracy must come first. First and foremost, reading fluency relies on accuracy. Students must integrate sub-skills such as fluent word recognition to read words accurately, which, in turn, supports their reading of sentences and paragraphs with accuracy and fluency and convey meaning. When students are becoming fluent with their word recognition, rate and prosody become important factors. Additionally, students should be able to read texts with appropriate pacing and with expression and intonation that facilitate comprehension and convey meaning. When it comes to fluency, of the three components, two are easily measured and assessed: accuracy and rate. Oral reading fluency is a screening measure that assesses these two components of fluency, and when measured, ORF, or oral reading fluency, is highly predictive of reading comprehension. This brings us to the end of the B2 strand. I hope that it is clear how important this strand and these skills are. All of these foundational skills play a critical role in learning to read and are in service of the ultimate goal of reading, comprehension.